Our first speaker is radio talk show host Bill Meyer from KCMD KMED. He is another treasure of Southern Oregon. Most of us wake up to his show from 6 o'clock to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday. Bill is very insightful, has fantastic guests, and is a community servant par excellence. He's also a gold sponsor for this event. Bill Meyer.
Thank you. By the way, before we get moving here, I wanted to do an extra shout out for Senator Robinson and his entire family, because I don't know if people who are not politically active understand just how much good that they have brought for Republicans and conservatives running for office with their sign company and what they've been able to do in getting the materials out. And it's sort of unsung heroes. And I really just wanted to help them and just give them a hand for all of their service with that too. And Noah and Matthew. Noah, you're making chemical concoctions in your spare time, and Matthews is creating nuclear reactors, as we know, right? I gotta tell you, a bunch of underachievers, that family, let me tell you. So, how do we start something like this? A Patriots conference, and I wasn't going to do a script at first. I was telling Richard Emmons about this a little while ago. I said, gosh, I'm just beat up, feeling like tired, beat up warriors sometimes. Do you ever get that feeling? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I get it. Especially this year when there are so many intrusions coming from so many different angles of attack, especially in Josephine and Jackson County, both of us being attacked at the same time. It's just a coincidence, of course, that all these charter changes, and other people are going to be talking about the charter changes, but yeah, it's all coming at the same time. We just happen to all come up with the same ideas and have the same communists coming in and preaching the same things, and we're going to give you more of what you didn't ask for, good and hard, okay? But as a talk show host, I've been doing this now about, I've been in radio 44 years. I don't know how many years for Chris. I'll have to ask him on Monday's show when we have him on. But I've been doing talk radio since 9/11. And it was rough then, but now it's like every morning I wake up and I'm looking at the news and what's been going on. And there's this guy on Facebook, or maybe it's YouTube, the little short things that come by. I don't know if you ever go on it. But have you ever seen the video in which there's some guy who looks like an OSHA construction inspector or something, and he's got the yellow vest on, he's got the horn-rimmed glasses and the hard hat, and he's looking at big dangerous accidents going on in construction sites. Here's the dump truck spinning on the ice and smashing into the building, and he's going... And then he looks at somebody carrying 100 bricks on his back in India and then tripping and falling into the ditch. He's going, like he'd be writing these people up. I can't believe these people are doing that. Well, that's kind of the way I am every day when I'm going through the news feed. I'm looking at, the state legislature. Oh, they did? Oh, no. They voted the $95 billion? Oh, no, they did. Okay. So anyway, that's me going through it all. But you have to keep on going. You have to keep the happy warrior side of you going. Some days it's harder than others. But given this is a Patriots convention, perhaps it's best to remember one of the best quotes of one of our founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson. A true patriot will defend his country from its government. Sounds like we're in that time, doesn't it? Now, in case you're going to fact check me on this, some people will say it was Thomas Paine who said that, but there's not a lot of evidence for that. Another source said it came from some enviro activist who died in the late 1980s. But I can't imagine any gangreener who is not in love with buddying up to government power to further the green agenda, so the idea of defending anything from its government would probably be anathema to them, okay? But still, the quote sounds like it's something that Thomas Jefferson would have said. Defending our country, in other words, our lands and people from its government. And here we are, Republicans, conservatives, non-affiliated voters, maybe independents. We wake up frustrated every day. We're all working at one level or another, focused towards joining with or getting people that we trust elected into these offices, in these governments, in hoping of redirecting it away from eating all our money and stripping and consuming what's left of our liberty and freedom. That's why I want to talk today about the power of no, the underappreciated power of no. And it's not happening nearly enough these days, and I'll explain. All of this is putting us in a strange position. We're fighting to get into the government, and yet we know a lot of government power, especially at the state and federal level, is overreaching and just plain old evil in many cases. But knowing it's evil and venal and thinking that we'll just ignore it, that's a surefire loser too, because you've heard the old story that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, right? Jackson and Josephine County have been on the menu for a long, long time. And they continue to, eat a hand maybe one day, maybe chew a kneecap off another day. You don't eat a good county all at once. Kind of like the old farmer story, right? You get that one-legged pig. But anyway. Today you're going to be hearing from all sorts of candidates, and they're running for office. Some are already in office. Others vying for new or higher positions. And the one thing I will say is that the closer you are to running for a local office, like some of the people you'll hear today, running for county commission or maybe getting on a city council, the better a chance you may have at having a direct impact on a particular issue. Unfortunately, where we find ourselves right now, the higher up the food chain you go in our government, from local to, say, state government, becomes a lot harder to actually bend the government to our needs or our will or to just bring it to heel. It becomes much more of a challenge. It's the political reality of the numbers. And I don't think I'm telling you anything that you don't know if you can add and subtract and you look at the balance of power in state government. And also at the federal government too, although that's a little bit different, and I'll talk a bit about that. And it brings me to the aspect of being a patriot once again. Remember the people that we have to defend our land and people from the government. We're at that point. We're now there. What is the best way to patriotically serve in the state government of Oregon as it is currently constituted? GOP is in a serious minority position. It's not a super minority at this point. Democrats don't have super majorities, but depending on how things go, it could happen. Dems control the playing field, we know that. Who gets on committees, who brings in the testimony, who makes the rules on whether an amendment gets considered or not considered. Everything is in that party's favor right now at the state level. Now, I talked with many state reps and senators week after week, year after hand-wringing year on talk radio. And I got to tell you, it's usually a sad, frustrating story on a weekly visit from state legislators in which Republicans, if having any influence at all, it's usually to looking like negotiating forced terms of surrender. And that's the way it's been looking there for a while, and I'm kind of shaking my head, but I got to do it, right? I got to keep you informed on this kind of stuff. And then I'll talk with people who are not conservatives, with less than a conservative point of view, maybe even moderate Republicans that are saying, the problem with we Republicans, especially you Neanderthal conservatives, is you need to evolve. And this is where I read from Joe Biden's script, pause, for effect. So, what does it mean when they tell us to evolve? Well, let's move to the left, surrender our principles, reach across the aisle. We're going to make friends. We're going to make friends with these communist people. You make friends. They hate everything about your point of view. They hate your people. They hate your culture until they need your vote. That's it. The Dems need Republicans really for only one thing now. You know what that is? Well, quorum, I suppose, but they'll try to get rid of that too, I'm sure. Taxes. That's one they absolutely have to have you to raise taxes. They need us to raise taxes. But you're also right. I heard it in the crowd out there. Yeah, bipartisan. And I'll talk about that. I wanted to focus on that. Our fellow Republicans hear this is you got to become more like the Democrats. You got to be like moderate. Become more like the people who want your children turned into throat-punching Antifa activists through public school indoctrination. The revolution cannot be denied, that kind of thing. They're the same people who say no tattoos for the kids because they're not responsible enough at that age at 17 to be able to choose a tattoo. But on the other hand, a boy tells a teacher that I feel pretty, and he wants to be a girl, and also it's time to start the transition, lop a few body parts off. Don't bring the parents in on this because they're not qualified to know, right? And if you were ever to be upset with me as referring to the Democrats as communists, or worse, you just have to remember that the Democrat or the Communist Party USA, might as well be Democrat, no longer fields candidates in races. They don't put candidates on the ballot anymore. They've been very open about this because they say that the Democratic Party in Oregon and elsewhere fulfills and is mostly totally in line with what the communists want to do. It's like, hey, cool. You're doing our work for us, guys. But back to the people telling you to evolve, including the lobbyists, which Herman's going to tell you all about later in the conference. It's going to be a great talk. I've talked with him several times about it. In a solid red state like Texas, Republicans aren't being asked to evolve. Only in the blue hive mind, Oregon, are we being asked to evolve. Even our party leaders at higher echelons. And you're running for a statewide office, and gosh, you're just going to have to. You're going to have to moderate your tone here because you're not going to get elected. Look at so many of our our governor candidates that have almost acted as if they're limboing under the moderate stick, trying to get into the pay toilet that is, locked in front of them. They're doing the limbo. But there are a good number of Republicans in state office right now, and probably running too, that are trying their best to evolve. This is a real danger. It really is. It brings me to the sad fact that many Republicans, and I don't want to depress us, but I just want to state the obvious emphatically, many of our Republicans don't share our conservative values. Very different. One is not the same. They've taken the bait to evolve. They've sipped from the poisoned chalice filled with evolve, collaborate, reach across the aisles, and try to make friends with the opposition party that would just as soon destroy everything you stand for and your culture too. It's kind of like the equivalent of if you were to take a white glove, you put a white glove on your hand, then you go over to the kitchen counter that you haven't cleaned and you start putting your gloved hand on the greasy black grime, and you're expecting your white glove to somehow get cleaner. That's really what I think a percentage of Republicans that need to reconsider are doing right now. And after all that conversation about evolving, I do think Republicans in Oregon need to evolve, but my picture of evolving is evolving to fight and resist and disrupt.
Yes.
Because it's the one tool they can't take away from us at this point in time, all right? They can't. And to let go of the collaboration, to let go of reaching across the aisle because we really get nothing for it. And we haven't been getting anything for it for quite some time. And yet, gosh, these long sessions come and go, the short sessions come and go, and everyone's sitting around and sending out the newsletters and patting themselves on the back for what a great job we did working across the aisle. So anyway, what does looking disruptive and fighting and resisting look like? Well, you have to be as disruptive, Republicans as a whole. Now, we do control levers of power in Jackson and Josephine County to an extent. So I'm talking about state legislature almost exclusively, okay? Republicans have to be disruptive and non-cooperative as possible. There's no chance of Republicans getting our bills passed right now in the current situation, the balance of power. The numbers are too far apart. But that doesn't mean you have to make it easy for the opposition commie Democrats, or that we go down without a fight. Because when we are reaching across the aisle and we are cooperating and we're doing all these other things and you put it in your newsletter, it demoralizes us. We realize that, oh my God, you just hoard us. You just hoard it out. So that way you're at the table. That's been the real reaction of Republican versus Democrat politics. And I'm sorry to use the term whore. I know it sounds really hard, but that's the first thought that comes to you. Oh, okay, they're hoarding it out again. Okay. But anyway, what does it mean? It means when you go to the state legislature, you try not to introduce many bills. I know that sounds anathema or like something we shouldn't be doing because, well, wait a minute, I'm a lawmaker, right? I almost wish we didn't call our representatives lawmakers because then they think their first job is to go make laws, right? Instead of protecting us from intrusions of the already existing laws. But any bill a Republican introduces in the legislature, in the current balance of power, is more than likely going to be a vessel for being gutted and stuffed. Does everybody know what gutting and stuffing a bill means here? Okay, I'll just do a brief explanation of it. Herman has taught me greatly about this. Anytime you introduce legislation, there's a relating clause. All right, I'm going to put this is a bill related to firearms, as an example. This bill relates to firearms. And because you're a Republican and you're going to write a Second Amendment protecting bill, right? And it's relating to firearms. And then by the time it runs through the system, a Democrat with the extra votes is able to just completely eviscerate what you wrote and replace it with something that they wrote. And you're still listed as the person who, got the bill going. But it doesn't mean anything. Instead of protecting the Second Amendment right, it will be, we shall round up Second Amendment promoters and put them in the gulag in Eastern Oregon. I'm just having fun with that, but that's exactly when you hear the term gutting and stuffing, I never knew they did this. I thought, wait a minute, you write a bill one way and they just completely blow the guts out of it? Yep, that's how they do it. So try not to introduce too many bills. Don't even bother. It just ends up being sitting there, something that can be used against us at some point. Okay, so that's one aspect of it, gutting and stuffing. It also means saying and voting no. No. Remember, I'm talking about embracing the power of no most of the time and meaning it. I'm evangelizing no as much as possible when I talk to our reps and our senators. The way many members of our caucus currently are behaving, though, is that they end up co-sponsoring Democratic bills. They want to get on the committees. We want to be at the table, okay? Oh, yeah, you want to be on the table, I get that. They offer ideas and suggestions that never make it to the final bill. And then they still vote yes to pass it out of the committee. So, well, yeah, I gave you all this good stuff on this bill, and you didn't take any of the ideas, but hey, I'm really keen, I'm here, and so I'll still vote no to pass it out. So it ends up going to the floor. Instead of just saying, hey, this had nothing to do, you didn't take any of my ideas. Why should I help you with a yes vote? But yet we do, as a rule, when you look at the voting records, okay? Now, not always, okay? But I'm saying you see a lot of that behavior. We give our power away. Our principles and our people are hurt. And what do the Democrats get out of this? And that's what happened to the person in the crowd that yelled it out. Bipartisanship. They end up getting the halo of House bill or Senate bill, blah, 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 was passed with bipartisan support. And everyone claps like seals. And I want to beat them like baby seals, as they're clapping. Yeah, I like baby seals. I don't really mean it that way. It's just for effect, okay? Yeah, Republicans. We're so cute, like a baby seal. Poof, and then come the Democrats, right? Now, a perfect example of how this happened. Take House Bill 4002. This was the one that everyone's patting themselves on the back right now. This is the fix for Measure 110, that piece of garbage that the George Soros people fooled the Oregon voters to support, okay? It was our Republicans eager to reach across the aisle and work toward a constructive solution. We ended up saving the Democratic Party's bacon this year. Do you know that? We saved them under the guise of reaching across the aisle, and here's why. We, the people, were so PO'd, so outraged toward the Democrats and their Measure 110 drug decriminalization fraud once again that the George Soros folks fed to us, that another ballot measure was getting ready to be run to repeal the whole damn thing, to repeal it entirely, to get rid of it. It would have gone away. The people would have voted for that 6 ways to Sunday. The Democrats may have only voted for it once. Maybe it would have been Republicans voting for it 6 times. You know, we don't do that, though. I know, I get that. So if it had been in the ballot, that would have passed huge this year. It was going to be on the ballot this year. Even this blue state would have passed it. We would have gone right back to the way it was prior to Measure 110. Street drugs are illegal, and no, we're not shoveling our millions of dollars on harm reduction programs like Stab and Wagon and Max's Mission here in Jackson and Josephine County. Oh, but wait a minute. The nonprofit rackets are run largely by friends of the Democratic Party. Take away their money? Don't flood Oregon Health Authority with more bucks to drop into the pockets of the Democrat druggie nonprofits and the homeless industrial complex? That can't be. Something must be done. So the Dems got their thin gruel House Bill 4002 cooked up, and Republicans collaborated, cooperated, and reached across the aisle and mostly voted yes for it. And everyone, except for the handful of principled Republicans who voted no, pumped out press release after press release, congratulating ourselves on what a great job we did together. The only problem with that is law enforcement, legal people I've talked to, judges, they're all saying that House Bill 4002 is so weak that it will solve anything. It won't solve anything. A lot of may go into this, might go into that, if they want to, yada, yada, yada. Richard, I think you've talked with me about that too. Maybe he'll talk more about that. And Republicans will not have a leg to stand on because we largely voted to pass it. We can't say that, well, we told you. No, you didn't. You voted for it. Had we used principle and embraced the power to vote no on all of this and let the Democrats own their garbage, own their crap, Republicans would have looked wiser when this bill inevitably fails to deliver on its bipartisan promises. It is going to fail. In the mind of largely blue Oregon, it will be a bipartisan, not a Democrat Party failure because Republicans went along with it. And we do this a lot. This is why I'm hoping to reform. I can't change what the Democratic Party does, but we can change what Republicans do. That's why I'm continuing to work on this. Even though the vast majority of HB 4002, the fix for Measure 110, was all Democrat design, the Republicans voted for it. That's just a fact. If we're to be an effective opposition party right now at the state legislature, and that's mostly what I'm talking about, we need to start acting like an opposition party. Vote for the people who will vote no on bad legislation and deny the Democrats the umbrella of bipartisanship, okay? Make the Democrats vote for their own bills and own their failures, which they will inevitably be, because the vast majority of what our Dems do just doesn't work. We talk about it all the time. Republicans would do well to not play the game with these folks. We'll think, hey, I might get a little bit of something out of this or something, but still the overall thing is bad. You just got to vote no more often. The challenge with this, though, is that you have to have principled people to say no more often, and it's not always a lot of fun. And Scott Stoddard will write mean girl editorials about you. But I've never met him. Anybody else met him? But with the current numbers we have in state government, saying no is the most powerful word there is and the most powerful strategy that we can take. And by the way, in Congress, the balance of power, it's a lot closer, okay, and deadlocked. So you peel a couple of votes off on the Democrats, and yeah, Republicans may get something through that might be kind of okay, all right? So that's not the strategy I'm talking about for Congress. It's much closer. The Democrats don't, but in the state of Oregon, the Democrats don't need us, but they use our representatives and senators to look bipartisan and cooperative. And Republicans get lumped in with the Democratic failures. Let the Dems fail, I say. Remind the people why you voted no as a Democrat, as their plan after plan fails and creates even more chaos. People need to know the Republicans and the conservative Republicans as a true alternative, not just going along and getting along. A Republican woman talked with me the other day, and she was at a town hall, and they were hearing from District 2 and 28 Senate candidates, Diane Linthicum and Dave Hensley, Noah Robinson and Christine Goodwin. And Linthicum, of course, had pledged not to vote for bad legislation, Diane Linthicum, I should say. And the opponent had an interesting statement, according to this woman's account. I wasn't at this one. But the opponent claimed that Senate District 28 had no representation for the entire 8 years Dennis Linthicum was serving there as senator because he voted no so often. They had no representation there. And wow, yeah, we laugh. But that line of thinking is a big part of mainstream Republicanism in Oregon. Mainstream, right? We think it's our job to get elected and vote for Democrat Party bills because Republican bills never make it to a vote. And this misguided thinking, embracing the weakness of voting yes for a Democrat bill, protects their people? No, not really. Frankly, we need more Republicans like Dwayne Yunker, who gets Mean Girl editorials written about him, and and Diane Linthicum, and Noah Robinson, various people like that. They understand the power of embracing the power of no. It's funny how every parent understands the incredible power of no, much more powerful than yes in certain situations. Parents understand the power of no, and we have to remember this in politics, and I think we've forgotten that a lot, except with a handful of people. This handful needs to grow. We as patriots have to require that our Republican representatives embrace no in the current power structure. This applies to our smallest governing bodies too, even our city councils. I'll just give you an example. If you've driven into downtown Medford lately, you poor person, all right? You look at how easy it is to go through Grants Pass. But my city of Medford being destroyed because of past city councils who just had to suck up to the state and the feds for the free money to repair downtown streets. They embraced the weakness of voting yes, of always voting yes. Well, I can't turn the money down. And the streets may have been repaved, but the string attached to the grant stream funding from ODOT to the state and the federal government is that you had to turn downtown Medford into 2-lane bicycle highways for the bums. That's what they did. We would have been better off to have embraced the power of no, saying, hey, thanks, but no thanks, and figured out a way to fix streets on our own without embracing chaos, which we got through voting yes. And the people here that are living in the town are going, this is not what we asked for. Nobody asked for it. Nobody ever asks them. But, well, gosh, you know, it's free money. There's no such thing as free money. There's always a string attached to it. And it's always about pushing the democratic, socialist, globalist agenda. You know, Diane's going to talk about that coming up in this thing. It's always about pushing the agenda bit by bit, incrementally at a time. So I'll conclude with saying, remember how Jefferson said a patriot at times is required to protect our country, our people, from its government. Well, now it's those times. I think we all agree on that much. And we, the people we elect, must embrace the power of no which is the way for Republicans to not make it easy for the Democrat communists and to stand as shining examples of principle. At least if the Dem communists are going to pass horrid legislation like 4002, it won't be with our votes. And then we can stand tall and say, no, we had nothing to do with this. We thought this was a bad idea. It's just one of many examples. It's my sincere hope and prayer that the people of Oregon figure out who was actually bringing them the misery no one asked for and push to change course. And we need to do that by embracing the power of no. And speaking of embracing the power of no, no on 17-116 and no on 15- in Jackson County 224, 225, and 226. These insane county charter changes, okay? And on that note, embrace no for the most part. Embrace yes for the good candidates who are willing to stand up and say no. Thank you very much.